Good morning everybody, welcome to Teaching Learning Strategies class. In this Teaching Learning Strategies class, we will learn first module, and the first module discusses teaching reading issues. Teaching reading issues consists of several issues from selecting reading materials, implementing teaching reading and learning reading, and also evaluating reading. In this topic, we are going to learn number one, identify the advantages and disadvantages of individual versus classroom reading. And the second, we are going to identify objective of teaching reading comprehension issues. Third, we are going to discuss about literal, interpretive, and critical comprehension under the reading domain. And number four, we are going to identify vocabulary issues in reading comprehension. And the last, we are going to discuss about authentic and non-authentic reading materials. Okay, we are going to discuss the first issue between individual and classroom reading issue. In the classroom teaching learning process, we have never seen where the teacher used only one text for all the students. And this one text is used for developing fluency, comprehension, vocabulary, and of course will be less effective for the teaching learning process, especially in developing student reading comprehensions. Now we will see this issue one by one. Number one is individual reading. Individual reading actually characterized by three aspects. Number one is each learner reads text and even books based on their selection. And the second will be classroom curriculum. So individual reading is actually part of EFL curriculum. We cannot separate the reading material from classroom curriculum. And the objective of individual reading is to keep up the student reading habit and independent reading. And when we see about independent reading, it is trained the students to read text, books based on their own time. So independent reading usually in the form of reads the book silently and makes meaning based on the student's own way in reading. The second is classroom reading. The characteristic of classroom reading can be seen from the following slide. Number one is usually the student works collaboratively to understand a certain text from the teacher. And they also discuss the same topic of reading. And this is also part of curriculum, and they also develop reading for fluency and comprehension as well. Okay, now we are going to discuss about the first issue, individual versus classroom reading issue. Now we have to take a look at the implementation of teaching reading in the classroom, where usually the teacher apply one text for all students to learn English. And the student will read the text one sentence by one sentence. And this is also aims at developing student reading comprehension, fluency, and also vocabulary. Of course, this kind of implementation teaching learning process will not be effective for the students to develop their reading skills. Because in a classroom teaching learning process, it consists of 1 hour, 1.5 hours for teaching integrated skill. So of course, when the student learn English, one sentence and continue to the second student and they learn also one sentence and the third student also learn one sentence, it is not enough for the teacher to assess the student reading skill. Now we come to the issue of individual and classroom reading issue. Number one, individual reading. Actually, individual reading can be characterized by three elements. Number one is each learner in individual reading, they read text and even books based on their selection. So in this case, the teacher and the student are freely selecting reading sources based on their learning objective. And of course, this kind of selection cannot be separated from the classroom curriculum, as individual reading is usually also part of classroom curriculum. So the selection of text, books, even reading material should be based on the classroom. And the third, it is also aimed not only for training the staff, not only for enhancing student reading comprehension and skill, but also to keep up student reading habit. So from individual reading, it is hoped that the student will have good or better reading habit or independent reading. And the second issue is about independent reading. Now when we are discussing about independent reading, we will going to see several characteristics of independent reading. Number one is the student usually read text or books based on their own time. So quite similar between individual reading and also independent reading. Where individual reading, they select the books individually based on their interest, but in independent reading, the student read books, text based on their own time, and usually they read the book silently and makes meaning based on their own way. It's quite similar between individual reading and independent reading. And the next will be classroom reading. Classroom reading quite different from the individual reading, where in classroom reading, the student work collaboratively to understand the reading material, books or text. And in this case, to understand the content of reading material, they discuss with peers. They discuss about the same topics, the same reading topic. Of course, the reading are similar to individual reading, where it should be classroom curriculum. So, reading material selection should be based on classroom curriculum for both individual and also classroom reading. And the goal of classroom reading is more on reading for fluency and comprehension. This is the end of the reading session. Before you continue to the following topic, formulating reading objective, you should be able to do the exercises of Module 1, Part 1 on individual versus classroom reading issue. Before you are able to discuss about the exercises, you cannot continue formulating reading objective. This is the end of the first issue. Before you continue to the second issue, you have to work on exercise. Exercise is provided on the Module 1, and you have to get 80% comprehension of the discussed topic. If you cannot achieve 80% comprehension, you cannot continue to the following issue. Now we come to the second topic, formulating reading objective. When we look at the teaching reading practices implemented in EFL classroom, we will see that sometimes in formulating reading objective, the teacher formulate reading objective based on their experience, based on their professional development. And how should we formulate reading objective will be discussed in this second issue. The second issue is the wrong notion about formulating reading objective. Sometimes teacher formulate reading objective based on their personal experiences. If their personal experience is good, then will be good for formulating the reading objective. But how for the teacher who have less teacher's professional development or less experience in formulating reading objective? And the second, usually in formulating reading objective, the teachers just rely on fluency, vocabulary, and mostly dominated by literal comprehensions. And the teacher also relies on word meaning. This is the wrong notion in implementing, in formulating reading objective in classroom EFL teaching and learning. Now, if we look from IRA, or International Reading Association 2014, the formulation of reading objective consists of 5 elements. The first element is comprehension. So, reading is aimed to develop student comprehension, for developing student vocabulary mastery, and also developing student reading fluency skill, developing reading for speed, training the student to read for fast, or developing student speed reading, and the last will be phonetic awareness. So we have 5 objectives for formulating reading. And suggestion for the EFL teacher in formulating reading objective, the teacher should at least read reading articles. From reading journal is worth pursuing for EFL teacher in formulating the reading objective. Because by reviewing so many kinds of different reading articles from reputable journal, the teacher are able to see how other people formulate reading objective. So by reviewing this kind of article, it will be good in formulating the objective of the reading. Now we can see IRA, for example. So if long time ago, the teacher defined reading only for fluency and also for vocabulary and literal comprehension, but now IRA suggests 5 objectives: comprehension, vocabulary, fluency, speed, and also phonetic awareness. And the second element of wrong notion, especially on literal comprehension, will be discussed further on the following topic on comprehension issue. Okay, this is the end of the second issue, formulating reading objective. Before you continue to the third issue on reading comprehension issue, you have to do like the first. So you have to work on exercise 2, and if you can do the exercise 2 with the score of 80%, you can continue to the third issue. If your score is below than 80%, so you cannot continue to the third issue. Now we discuss to the third issue. The third issue is actually a reading comprehension issue, where in this case we are going to discuss about 3 aspects of comprehension, namely literal comprehension, interpretive comprehension, and critical comprehension. These 3 issues is less aware by the EFL teachers. Many EFL teachers do not understand about the types of reading comprehensions. So that's why in classroom teaching and learning process, usually literal comprehensions dominate in the classroom teaching and learning process. So that's why the student interpretive and critical, especially in writing later when we discuss about writing, so the student writing will be not be good. The student interpretive and also critical comprehension will not be good. But the student will be strong when they are finding the reading literal comprehension to find out the stated information. To find fact and detail, it will be easy for them. Now, to understand what literal comprehension, what is actually stated, we have 3 characteristics of literal comprehension. Literal comprehension describes about facts and detail. So facts and detail are stated textually in the text. And it is also aimed for developing students' rote learning or memorization. And this kind of literal comprehension is categorized into surface understanding only. Now we try to see about interpretive comprehension, or what is implied. It is different from literal comprehension, where interpretive comprehension, it is aimed to draw inferences. So the information is not stated in the text, but the student have to make logical steps. And the student should use their prior knowledge to find what is implied from the text. The easiest way to characterize interpretive comprehension is by looking at between the sentence or between the line. So you can see the sentence 1, the line 1 of the line 2 of sentence 1 and sentence 2, and you see what is behind the 2 sentences or the 2 lines. This is the characteristic of interpretive comprehension. Now we are going to see about critical comprehension. Critical comprehension is quite more challenging than literal comprehension as well as interpretive comprehension. Critical comprehension is more challenging than literal comprehension and interpretive comprehension. In critical comprehension, the information is beyond the text. So it is very difficult because the student cannot find the information from the text. And in this critical comprehension, the student should be able to analyze, synthesize, and apply what is implied from the text. So in this case, the ability to analyze, to synthesize, and to apply their previous knowledge, their literal comprehension ability, interpretive ability should be combined so they can develop their critical comprehension. Now imagine when we are looking at classroom teaching reading, among the 3 comprehension, we will see that literal comprehension dominates more in classroom reading class, where the teacher usually tests or assess student comprehension based on literal comprehension, and this is not good for teaching reading, because when we see TOEFL tests, reading TOEFL tests, or IELTS reading tests, most of them rely on interpretive and also critical comprehension. So starting from now, teaching reading should consider about literal comprehension, interpretive comprehension, and also critical comprehension. The equal portion between literal comprehension, interpretive comprehension, critical comprehension should be taken into account, because the aim of the reading should be based on the 3 kinds of comprehension. Not only here, but should be all for the reading comprehension. Before we continue to vocabulary issue, again, you have to be able to do exercise 3 on issue 3, and you have to get at least 80% score from the exercise. If you can do the exercise more than 80%, so you can continue to vocabulary issue. And now we are going to discuss about vocabulary issue. There are 2 main issues in vocabulary between individual vocabulary and vocabulary in context. Vocabulary as part of reading usually taught in individual vocab. So now we look deeply at individual vocabulary. Actually, the purpose of individual vocabulary is to find the word meaning only. So unfamiliar word, the meaning will be searched into the dictionary, and the student will just see the meaning of the single word. But the weaknesses is that less support to other English language skill. When we are teaching vocabulary or individual vocabulary out of the context, not with the context, so it cannot provide support for other English language skill for the students. And when in the classroom teaching learning process, the student get difficulty in finding the unfamiliar meaning of individual vocabulary, the teacher have to suggest using referencing strategy. So in this case, the teacher should be able to train the student to use dictionary. By looking at the dictionary, the student will find so many different context on how the word is used in different sentences. Okay, the next will be words in context or vocabulary in context. It is quite different from individual vocabulary. Where individual vocabulary provide less support, it is different from word in context. And in words in context or vocabulary in context provide contextual meaning. So from different contexts, the student can understand the different meaning of the word from the different context. So context really determines the meaning of the words. And the advantages of vocabulary in context will support, so it will be able to support student English language skill. Because from context, the student can learn vocabulary, they can learn grammatical pattern, even they can learn the meaning of the word in the context, not in the individual one. Now, suggestion for the FL teachers in teaching vocabulary issues. In this case, it is really suggested that teachers should teach vocabulary not individually, but should be in context. Because from the context, the student can learn grammatical pattern, can learn the culture of the word, can learn the meaning of different words in different contexts. And one more good thing is it also supports other English language skill. Okay, now we are going to continue with the issues of authentic and non-authentic reading issue. Authentic and non-authentic reading issue consists of two. Number one is authentic reading materials, and the second will be non-authentic reading materials. In authentic reading materials, Gebat 1996 defined that authentic reading material include anything that is used as part of communication, such as cartoon, travel magazine, newspaper, weather report, are types of authentic reading materials. Several advantages of authentic reading material can be described as follows. Number one, it offers real exposure. So from authentic reading material, the student get the authentic English. The student will learn the real English from the authentic materials. But the weaknesses is that sometimes it is very different from the curriculum, and also readability issues. Sometimes authentic reading material consists of a very difficult word because of different culture, different context, so it will cause of credibility issue become harder for EFL students and also EFL teacher, of course. The second advantage is that it is very challenging to locate, to find, and also to prepare, because we have to adjust with the curriculum, so it is not easy. The second one, non-authentic reading material issue. This is quite different from authentic reading material, but the advantages of the non-authentic material consist of match with the English curriculum and also more understandable. So in this case, the issue of authentic lays on the readability issue, but for non-authentic, the reading material will be easier for the student to understand. And of course, the non-authentic reading material will match with the curriculum. But now, how we have to use this in classroom teaching learning process? In classroom teaching learning process, EFL teachers should at least address these two kinds of reading materials. Number one, authentic reading material should be also given. But remember, in providing authentic reading material, the teacher can do simplification and also consider about the curriculum. Because from this, the student will learn about the real exposure and also the real reading material with the real difficulty level, with the real culture, with the real English from the reading text. But again, for non-authentic reading material, we have to be very careful because sometimes the English is less appropriate, especially when the culture is different. So in non-authentic material, the FL teacher should be very carefully designing the reading material. Please consider about the quality of English when the teacher is having good English, so the teacher can create their own reading material for non-authentic purposes. We are going to discuss the last issue. In this case, we are going to discuss about speed reading and also fluency. Actually, what is speed reading? Speed reading is the ability to read passages fluently within limited time. In this case, usually 250 until 300 words per minute. That is the international standard of speed reading. Speed reading does not rely on student ability to read the passage quickly, but of course with good comprehension. And in this case, after the students are able to read within 250 and also 300 words per minute, then their comprehension is also measured. So comprehension should be 80%. Reading is not just student ability to read the text quickly, but should be with comprehension. And comprehension should be measured at least with 80% comprehension. The objective of teaching speed reading and fluency is to train the student to be able to read the passage correctly, with correct pronunciation, intonation, and with good comprehension. This is the goal of teaching speed reading and fluency for the student. As a conclusion, we can sum up that teaching reading issues consist of 5 main issues in teaching reading. Number one, individual reading issues and collaborative reading issues. Issue number 2 is comprehension issue, and issue number 3 consists of literal comprehension, interpretive comprehension, and critical comprehension issue. Issue number 4 is vocabulary issue between individual vocabulary and also contextual vocabulary. And finally, the 5th issue consists of authentic versus non-authentic reading material issue. Okay, thank you. This is the end of the first module. In module 1, you learn teaching reading issues, where at the end of the module, you have 5 exercises, and before continuing to the module 2, you have to do the exercise, and your score should be more than 80%. If your score is still below than 80%, you cannot continue to the second module. Thank you.